Hello, hello. It is me, Valerie. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Alaska Summer Travel Summit. This is the cruise panel, and just to get started here, I want to spend a quick minute introducing myself. We are just a few minutes behind. We're making up some time. If you've been watching all day, is this not flying by? There is so much information here. I'm excited to reach out to some of the speakers we've already had and see if we can put together a couple more webinars for you to help finish planning your trips, because we've just packed so much in. So first of all, reintroducing myself, I'm Valerie Stimmick. I run the travel blog Valerie and Valise. I focus on helping people plan bucket list trips in the American West, which obviously would include Alaska. It's one of those great destinations. But I actually grew up in Alaska, which is part of why I love promoting travel there so much. I also provide custom itinerary services through my blog. So if you need extra help, you can get that through my blog, and we will make sure that that's all provided to you by email after the event. The other housekeeping things that I do want to share is if you have any questions during this cruise session, I want you to put them in the YouTube chat. So I've got a couple emails. I know if you're on mobile, you don't really have the chat feature. You can always reply to any of the emails you've received from me if you have questions, and I'll make sure they'll get to Zach and or Dan, who are our speakers today. The other thing is that we are going to do a prize draw at the end of this session. I'm sorry if you've been watching, waiting for the prize draws. We've been running a little bit behind, so I decided to just lump them all together at the end of the day. But we have a special prize pack from Uncruise that we will be giving away. So we will make sure we have time to do that right at the end after the Q&A. And without further ado, I would love to bring on and introduce our speakers for today's session. All right. So for today, if you can just give a little wave when I say your name, we have Captain Dan, who I think his video is coming on, and we have Zach. So Dan works for Uncruise. Captain Dan, I can't not call you Captain Dan. And Zach works for Alaskan Dream Cruises. And to do a little bit of an introduction, this is not obviously the cruise panel that I had originally envisioned. Obviously, we were hoping that it would be the case that cruising would be a safe option this summer. But at this point, none of the major cruise lines that I'm aware of, the big guys, the big ships, none of them are going to be operating in Alaska. So I have brought in two hand-picked small ship cruise companies. One I have cruised with before, which is Uncruise, and one I am very much hoping to be on a cruise with this season, though I think we're going to hear from both of you that already it's been such an incredible season for bookings that I may not get a seat or a cabin if I wait too long. So anyway, let's just jump right in. We've got Dan, you're going to be on first, and then we'll do the second half with Zach.
Well, awesome. Good to be here with everyone. We've got the Alaska Dream up.
Sorry.
So maybe it's Zach going first.
It is Zach going first.
Take it away, buddy.
I apologize.
We're good friends. Good to see you, Zach.
Good to see you too, Captain Dan. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Valerie, for inviting us. And, I'm sitting here in Sitka, Alaska, where we're headquartered. And the coolest thing is happening right outside the window. I wish I could turn this desktop around. We've got the herring opening right outside in Jamestown Bay. So we've got humpback whales out. There's snow-capped mountains. There's a little bit of rain, but it's the rainforest. It's what keeps things beautiful. And so Alaska is really springing to life, and we're excited to be sailing this year. Obviously, as most people would probably know or assume, we did not sail in 2020, but we have developed extensive protocols we'll talk about, and we're going, and we're confident and excited, optimistic for a really successful Alaska season. So Alaskan Dream Cruises is owned and operated by the Allen family, and Alaska is not just what they do for a living, it's their ancestral home. They are Alaska natives, they're members of the Tlingit tribe, and they're also pioneers of Southeast Alaska boat tours. In 1970, they started providing tours of Silver Bay here in Sitka for guests on large ships, and then we've spread through Ketchikan, Juneau, now up at the Hubbard Glacier in Yakutat, and that's on our day boat, Allen Marine side. Well, 10 years ago, they started Alaskan Dream Cruises, which is our small ship, and one we'll talk about today. So on the next slide shows our fleet. We have 6 vessels. Here on this slide, you see 4 of them are larger vessels, ranging from 49 passengers here up to 76 is our largest. That's the Chichagof Dream on the bottom of the screen. And these are all designed and well laid out. They're nimble vessels for getting off the beaten path, designed for optimum viewing. We have spacious outer decks. And of course, all these vessels have private staterooms with heads and showers, and it's if you're used to the big ship scene, it's obviously a little bit different, but there are, and I will say that we say there's no bad way to see Alaska. Large ship, small ship, there's no bad way to see it, but this is a really unique way. We are on flexible itineraries. So if we see a pod of orcas or humpback whales that are bubble netting or a bear along the shoreline, we can divert our course, spend time, enjoy that true Alaska moment. So on the next slide, you'll see our smaller vessels. We have the 10-passenger, 10-guest Misty Fjord, and then the next one is the 12-guest Cruise Off Explorer. Now we sell these by the stateroom, but also they're becoming really popular to charter. Guests, especially this year, that are just looking to remain in their family bubble or their small group bubble, can charter these vessels out. Give us a call and we'll talk through your unique circumstances, your unique interests. We'll totally tailor it to what you want to do. I will mention that the 12-guest Cruise Off Explorer is unique in that if you've ever watched Deadliest Catch, that popular show on Discovery Channel about Bering Sea crabbers, this is a former Bering Sea crab boat, so it's got an Alaskan heritage. It's been converted to be just a stellar expedition vessel. And this vessel will actually be sailing here. We had our first guests arrive yesterday for an early spring sailing that leaves on Saturday. On the next slide, we talk about our itineraries. So we have 11 really dynamic itineraries. We're off the beaten path in remote wilderness, the bays, the coves, and passages. One of my personal favorite places is Tracy Arm, Ford's Terror Wilderness, which is a glacial carved fjord with stunning cliffs and ice flows and tidewater glaciers. Of course, Glacier Bay National Park is a gem of Southeast Alaska, and we have permits for park entries. And then we have a unique day lodge called Orca Point, and now Finn Island Lodge in Sitka, where you're not staying overnight there, but you're getting off the ship for a quintessential Alaskan evening where you're roasting s'mores. We've got king crab and prime rib going, and just enjoying that beachside bonfire before you load your vessel. So we, of course, as an Alaska Native-owned company, we'll venture into Alaska Native villages. These are our friends and also our family members in these places. One thing I want to point out as I think about the Alaska Native villages, I just talked to the village of Cake, some tribal leaders there, and they are excited for us to come. Some people wonder, are these small communities wanting guests? Well, I can say on behalf of Cake, they are, I think, 80% vaccinated. And so they're saying, come on in, and they know our protocols that small ships have, and so we're excited. And then, of course, premier wildlife destination. So we'll be sailing. This says May through September. Of course, we have this one-off April sailing, which was meant actually to coordinate with what's going on right now, this herring fishery. So that worked out well. And we are adding sailings. We've just added sailings to the back end of the season into September. And are excited about that too. The next slide talks a little bit about life aboard. So again, some key differences here from the large lines. This isn't, there's not onboard entertainment by way of casinos and pools and things like that. It's educationally and culturally focused. We have naturalists and what we call true Alaskan guides that are providing throughout the journey, but at night, some educational presentations. The culinary fare is excellent. We have really talented chefs and bakers, and we have of course, a special emphasis on fresh Alaska cuisine. But if seafood's not your thing, we have something for everyone, including vegan, vegetarian. I kind of went over the staterooms already. They're great places, little oasis to go and to rest, but you don't spend tons of time in there because we're adventure based, and that's a nice place to retire at the end of the evening, but we have stuff going on all the time. We have an open wheelhouse policy, and that's part of our true Alaskan ambiance. That means unless there's a navigational concern, the captain is docking, you can come up into our wheelhouse, chat with the captain and the mates, the deckhands, see the charted course and really experience a unique perspective from up in the wheelhouse. So as I said, it's all about adventure. Our vessels carry, in most cases, these Demery inflatable boats, or DIBs as we call them, which is just a shallow water expedition skiff. Some of our other vessels have more traditional Zodiacs. We do have kayaks aboard, so we do beach landings, we do hikes, we do, as you see in this picture, navigating at water level around these icebergs and glacial fjords, and provide a really unique, once-in-a-lifetime, as Valerie was saying, we're talking about bucket lists here, right? So bucket list opportunity. So a little bit about health protocols. We just announced that we are going to all vaccinated cruises. That's for all guests 18 years of age and older. And along with that, proof of a negative result from a PCR test administered within 4 days of your cruise embarkation. So what we say there is we encourage you get that at home before you leave on your travels so that you can know what your test result is. You get to us and provide that proof of negative result. We also have antigen-based tests that we will be administering prior to embarkation when people arrive. I'll say just anecdotally, we've been at this for just a few hours now on our announcement of COVID. Valerie knows that because she had to update the slides last minute. Thanks for doing that. But as I think Dan will mention too, vast majority of people are saying, "Oh, great! This is welcome news. We applaud this decision," and we knew that going in. We've talked to our guests and knew that they would primarily be very supportive of that. Of course, if someone had a question or concern, as again, I think all members of our small ship coalition, if you want to call that, will say, we don't know what coming years will bring. So, look at 2022 if it's of major concern. But we know, and we're confident and excited that based on what we've been hearing from the federal level, these vaccines will be widely available to the eligible ages as we get to our late May sailing. And well before, I think we're seeing that already. Some other things: thorough and constant disinfection of common areas and touch points, anything people are touching, our transportation vehicles, increased hand sanitation. We've got eliminated buffet and self-serve option or beverage options, sterilizing UV lights, and then masks required when occupying or transiting all public areas. I will say that just like this last minute vaccine thing that we just announced here right before this this talk, we don't know what the COVID protocol, it's fluid, and we all know that. So we're going to stick by the negative vaccination. As we get closer, we're going to adhere to state and federal mandates. So if that changes things as far as testing procedures for already vaccinated people, we're going to be rolling with federal and health and state health mandates. So that is, I'm sure there's questions people can have, but that's the nutshell. So we're excited. Again, 10 years in Alaska this year. Very optimistic that we're going to have a stellar season, and welcome any questions, and look forward to hearing from our friend Dan and on cruise here.
Thanks so much, Zach. And on the screen, you can all see that this is the website for Alaskan Dream Cruises, and they are excited to have you aboard. And I'm equally sure that Dan is also excited to have people aboard this year. So let's jump right into Uncruise.
Aren't we all looking forward to having people travel? Just plain, period. Done. Let's go for it. One of the things before I get going on my slides, I just want to say, the opportunity that Zach and all of us in Alaska are presenting you as sellers of Alaska and visitors is this really rare opportunity. This is perishable fruit. And in October, this fruit's off the vine and it's going to rot. And Alaska will be this way 1 year. 1 year. And we're going to have ships back. Not that I'm against big ships, but it's going to be like Alaska was in 1969, prior to the cruise industry coming to our shores. So this is a rare opportunity for agents and sellers of Alaska to really jump on board to this super rare opportunity.
Really quick, Dan, I did want to let you know this is actually consumers you're talking to. So these are the people who want to be on board.
I've
Okay,
got
cool.
both.
Just making sure.
Yeah. And it is great. I see some of my guests are commenting on it right now. But the the really wonderful thing about Uncruise Adventures is that we are celebrating our 25th year as a company this year, and I think it's appropriate. I'm always a big Friday the 13th guy. Why not celebrate during a pandemic your 25th year and rock it? And so we're going to be doing that this year in Alaska. You can see this first slide is the Wilderness Explorer. It's our 76 passenger boat anchored up in Glacier Bay. Uncruise Adventures has more trips into Glacier Bay than any company afloat, and that even includes when the large ships are around. So if you want to see Glacier Bay, we are definitely one you should consider. You can go to the next slide. And we also, for the joy of you coming to Alaska, you also have a chance to travel with us later in the Pacific Northwest, Sea of Cortez, Mexico, Belize, Hawaii, and even the Galapagos. These are all destinations we've been at for some time. Belize, we're actually adding new this coming fall. So a lot of things besides Alaska we can offer the traveler as well. We find that a lot of folks come on board with us the first time in Alaska, and then it's just a follow through where many of our non-Alaska destinations are 60–70% guests that have been with us before. So what's new for Uncruise in 2021? Well, I already let the cat out of the bag. 25 years of being with my company. And I will say I started working as a captain not far from where this location is in Glacier Bay. The opportunity to run in Alaska came to me when I was about 24 years old, and I was running the Park Service's day boat in Glacier Bay National Park. And what that did is that brought on this desire to see Alaska in a more thorough way. So this year, we're May through September. We'll close out the Alaska season actually on October 3rd this year. We generally start Alaska. We're usually the first ones to start in early April. Zach gets it this year. Doggone it, you beat me, brother. Zach got me, he's got a small boat going out here early in the season. We'll catch up with you in May, Zach. But typically, you can see Alaska Awakening is kind of an uncruise brand where we operate in some of the driest months in late April, May, and early June in Southeast Alaska. A little bit contrary to what people think about the weather. We are actually upping our adventure options this year. So we have been kind of the owner of the adventure market and the small ship industry in Alaska for a long time. And what we're doing is we're actually carrying extra expedition leaders this year, expedition staff, and this kind of thing to get people off the boat more. Both Zach and I are under a mask mandate, as you may have heard from our earlier conversations on day boats and such. But what we do is when you're socially distanced on deck and this kind of thing, you don't have to have masks, but when you're off the boat, it's easy to socially distance. So this presents some great opportunities if we amp up our activities. And of course, we'll be one of the few small boats available. Now, Uncruise, as far as I know, is the only company that's going to start the season with fully vaccinated cruises for both guests and crew. So this is really important. I know that we are all as an industry kind of moving in that direction. And we came out with this a few weeks ago, and we're finding, just like Zach said, that it's actually bringing more business in, which is good, because I believe most people realize that to be safe and travel, vaccination is a thing. And we've also launched a new website. I'm doing an adventure travel podcast a lot these days. And guess what? We have an online gift shop. I know you're all just screaming for that one. So anyway, some things with Uncruise. Next slide, please. So this is, we actually did operate last year, one trip, and this was what it looked like. We had our whole group there. This is when they were not socially distanced, so they had their masks on, getting ready to go for a snorkel. But this year, as I mentioned, we're not only are we having fully vaccinated crews starting out on April 30th, for crew and guests. But we're also adding the extra activities. We have molecular test kits on board and analyzers at great expense. And I mentioned the mask already. We've also really tried to amp up our live press and media this year about the whole vaccination situation, because we believe that this is not just Uncruise Adventures or Alaska Dream Cruises. This is the travel industry trying to find its place in this time and period in our lives. So you can see our vaccinated cruise policy online as listed in the bottom line there. So what's coming up in 21 and 22? We'll set sail on May 10th out of Seattle on a positioning trip, and May 16th out of Juneau will be our first Alaska sailings. We'll have 6 small ships operating, and we are getting so close to pulling the trigger on the 7th. What we're seeing with the rise in tide, per se, of vaccines, we're seeing our phones are coming off the hook. And so we're real close to deciding whether we're going to operate that 7th vessel this year. We believe, although Zach may be beating me out with this cruise he has coming up. Zach, are you going to operate that first one fully vaccinated, or is that going under your old policy?
Sorry, I had to unmute there. You know, it's not, the policy was not enacted before guests were arriving, but I will, if I remember right, I think all the guests have it, which is what we've been hearing. Right?
Yeah, that's the good thing. I mean, that's the easy lift for you and me, is that it's actually already out there. Well, then I may still have a chance at get you on this one. I'm not sure. But one of us is going to come out and say we ran the first fully vaccinated crew and guest trip in the United States here soon. So Zach, we'll just put that one up to you and me. We're also resuming our cruises this fall in Costa Rica, Panama, Belize, as I mentioned earlier, Sea Cortez, Hawaii, all happening very, very soon here. And I'm happy to say that for Alaska 2022, we have one boat that we're going to put on an itinerary that is designed to be higher level of adventure. And this is for the couple that, you know, they want to just go out and pump it all day. They want to kayak all day. This is for the true adventure traveler that's even amped up more than our current level. And we're calling this Alaska's new Wild, Woolly, and Wow itinerary. Get that. And we're going to blow some socks off. We're very involved with REI on this particular adventure. And this year we're expanding our Juneau offices. We're actually going to be right on the pier in Juneau with our main office, and we'll be adding more Glacier Bay days in 2022. So this is just a little thing that's unique about Uncruise Adventures. This is actually from the stern of the Wilderness Explorer, looking from the aft passenger deck onto what is this massive floating platform that we lower down, and we wheel kayaks and stand-up paddle boards and such on and off. So you actually get in your kayak off this platform, and then pull your kayak right up when you're done, and we take you out of the kayak. So the really great thing that we offer as a company is the ability for somebody who hasn't kayaked, that's maybe a little timid, to be able to get in this kayak, get in it while it's on land, and go. It's a really wonderful system that we've developed on almost all of our boats, except for our smallest charter yacht's a little different. And then, of course, the big thing about, you know, Uncruise Adventures is truly the hiking and the kayaking, the snorkeling, the paddleboarding. This is another great shot from Glacier Bay National Park. And this is a typical activity that takes place in the park on all of our trips. The great thing is this is small group stuff, you know, anywhere from 8 to 16 people max, depending on where we're going, all led by guides that have spent years and years and years in Alaska, and of course this year that are vaccinated. So that's, you know, the main message I have. I just want to encourage everybody as you're thinking about Alaska. You know, there's a lot of folks my age. I'm 62. There's a lot of folks my age on this call right now, or, you know, 50s to 70s, or folks that are looking to go to Alaska. And you'll all remember that song, The Summer of '69. And it's got a really great sound to it. And one of the things that I remember, the passage in that song that's really stuck with me is, these were the best days of my life. And we have the chance to come out of COVID here blasting, folks. Chance to get up to Alaska and see it like you and I will never see in our lives again, and truly have the best time of our lives. Thank you.
What a way to end the slides. Thank you. Great. So I think what we're going to do is we're perfectly on time. Thank you so much. You guys were both right on it. So what we're going to do to start is I'm going to pick the winner of the Uncruise prize pack. And the reason I'm going to do that now is we're going to pick the winner, and then we're going to do some Q&As, and that'll give the winner a chance to get into the chat and let us know if they're here, because they need to be here to win. So right off the bat, I actually did that while you were speaking. Give me 1 second to get to the tab on my spreadsheet. It looks like I am looking for Terry Finnegan. So Terry, if you are watching live and you have the ability to chat, please go into the YouTube chat and put your message there that you are there. If you are listening on mobile and you don't have chat, find one of my emails that I've sent, many emails today, and reply to it saying, I'm here, but I just can't chat because I'm not on the desktop version. So we'll do that now, and then we're gonna do some Q&A, and we'll come back, and hopefully we will have a winner by then. So let's jump to the questions. Okay, the first one is from Isabel. And I think in these questions, it looks like almost all of them you can both answer briefly, just so that people get both perspectives, though I think you probably have very similar policies. But Isabel asks, do cruises still operate no matter the weather?
I can jump in there. I guess the short answer is yes. So I think I've got to qualify this. The great thing about well, first of all, I'll start with the Inside Passage. The Inside Passage is this remarkable body of water that, besides all the natural beauty and wildlife, is protected from the outer swell of the outer coast, the open ocean. So it's very rare that we have to, maybe tuck our boat into a cove to wait out some weather. That does happen. And so in answer to that question, do we sail no matter the weather? We're always going. I can't think of a time we've had to stay on the dock because of the weather, but that's the great thing about being nimble. If we're out and things are getting a little dicey in Clarence Strait, we'll tuck in, we'll do some kayaks, we'll go on the beach. And I'd imagine, I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Dan.
Yeah, I agree, Zach. It's the first boat I ran in Alaska was called the Sheltered Seas for good reason. It is all inside waters. It's really not seaway that affects our operations as much as wind. And so we always pick, coves that are not susceptible to wind and this type of thing. But yeah, I would say that on the Inside Passage where the smaller ships run, it's really weather doesn't present much of an issue. I would say bring your rain gear. And if you don't, we have it on board with boots as well. But, you have to prepare to be in Alaska, be an Alaskan. And that means extra tufts, boots, rain gear.
No.
Yep.
Weather, just bad gear, right, Dan?
Yeah, no bad weather, just bad gear.
That's exactly what I was going to say is, don't leave your raincoat at home, even if the forecast looks clear. Southeast Alaska, Inside Passage, it rains a fair amount. It's better to bring it and not need it. Okay, let's go on to the next question. Let's see if we have one queued up. Do you have one queued up for me? Looking at my producer. Okay, so here's one. This is one for me. So I'd love to have both of your input on this. Can you give us both kind of your understanding of the cruise season and the law that they're talking about passing for large ships? Like, should people be holding out hope that that law is going to pass, or should they reschedule for either this year on a smaller ship or next year? What's your advice there?
I'll start out this time, yep. Zach. This is a really complex problem, and Canada is not showing any desire to get rid of the Canada cruise ban. Politically, it is very, very, very difficult to change the law in the United States. And quite frankly, from my discussions with our delegation, we're just not getting the traction we would like. And then we have the CDC issue as well. So you really have 2 or 3 elements here that make the the likelihood of large ships, foreign flag ships operating in Alaska this year, exceptionally challenging. I don't know, Zach, do you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I know that our federal delegation has introduced legislation. We're talking about the Passenger Vessel Services Act here for some sort of a waiver. I think it's a steep hill to climb. I will say we're in full support of that waiver. Obviously, people know we also have our dayboat side, but it's about Southeast Alaska. We want to keep things on the up and up here, but going 31 months from September of 2019 to May of 2022 for so many, and we're not just talking tours, we're talking shops and restaurants and stuff, is pretty dire. And so we're in support of it, but we're at the mercy of a few different factors.
Bureaucracy being the big one, political will. Well, thank you. I appreciate you both chiming in on that. Here's a question, and I don't remember, Zach, if you mentioned this, so I'll have both of you answer again, is, are you operating at reduced capacity, or is it just fully vaccinated, or both?
Uncruise is working at reduced capacity. We have cabins set aside for isolation, primarily of crew members. So it varies on the boat, but we do have cabins that we are working at reduced capacity, yes.
And ours kind of matches what Dan has said. The one thing I would say is that our vessels are originally certified. So, for example, the Chichikov Dream is our largest vessel at 76 passengers. It had at one time sailed at 102 passengers. So there's some kind of built-in reduced capacity, and we're talking about small ships here. I know Dan kind of boats. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Apologies for coughing. I was trying to mute myself. Okay, so we have another question from Annette. Annette asks, do you anticipate seeing more wildlife this summer since there haven't been any cruises in the past year?
I'll start out. I've been taking my little boat out. Yeah, I've been taking my little boat out, and it does seem like the whales are back earlier. Some places we're seeing more bears than we traditionally had. I think that there's some reports out of Glacier Bay from last summer where they found that the whales were traveling into more areas than they typically would. So there is some data out there. Just anecdotally, we've had a really strong winter. I mean, it's still snowing in Juneau, and that generally is really good for salmon and for wildlife as a whole during the summer compared to drier winters. So we probably have a lot going forward this summer that's going to be powerful.
And I'm no marine biologist or researcher. I will say that anecdotal. I mean, I'm looking out right now and we've got whales around. So I don't know if it's more or whatever, but I know that it looks to be strong. And as Dan said, sometimes when we've got those years that are really dry, that's a no bueno thing for the salmon, and we're looking good on that. It was a little wet this last year, but that's good for wildlife.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so I'm trying to check. I don't think we've heard from Terry, who is the person I drew as the first prize winner. So I think we're going to draw another one real fast, then we can take another question. Okay, I drew a winner. Let's see whose name comes up. Patricia Favia. Patricia, if you are watching live, please let us know in the chat if you are here. I know we've emailed. You can also reply to one of my emails if you are at your email currently. And while we wait for you to answer, we're going to do another question. And this is one that I also have to ask because I get seasick. So can you both share little insights on your tips for people who are a little bit nervous because they might get motion sick while out? Do they need to worry about that? What should they do to prepare, etc.? Well,
so I'll let people in on a personal secret here. I too am a licensed captain. I started driving for Allen Marine, and I'm a born and raised Alaskan. Family are commercial fishermen, and don't tell anybody, but when I go out to the open ocean, I don't love it. I get a little motion. I've been on a lot of Alaskan Dream Cruises sailings, and I've never experienced that, and very rarely have I seen someone. Now, absolutely, take the precautions. If you're especially worried about it, there's no problem to get the patch or to make sure you bring medication. we talk to people all the time. So if we know it's going to be bumpy for a little stretch, which is again rare, we'll give you a heads up. You know, maybe you take that medication. But I would say in general, that's the beauty of the Inside Passage is you don't have to worry. And I know when I go, having been prone in the past, it's never been an issue for me.
Yeah, and I would just add, and Zach, I thought that was great. I would just add also that the advantage of our itineraries is that they're super flexible. So it's not like we're trying to make a port call here and a port call this afternoon here and one tomorrow morning here, where we have to zip between places. We have ultimate flexibility, and so if there is weather, we just stay places that are calm. It's easy enough.
Perfect. Okay, one more question to finish up our session, and this one is from Catherine for Dan, but I have a feeling the answer is going to be the same for both of you. Do you need previous experience kayaking to go on one of your adventures?
Absolutely not. And, you know, that's the joy. In fact, it's every trip we get someone in their 80s or 90s that to bring in their grandkids or their children along. And they inevitably get in the kayak a little worried, or maybe it's somebody for the first time. And sometimes if they're lacking the confidence, we'll put a crew member with them just to make sure that they're comfortable and everything. But again, the ability to do this it's just so easy. And it's even easier than hopping on a bike, quite frankly.
It's people are surprised. I think when you look visually at a kayak and you haven't done it before, you think, oh my gosh, that looks wobbly. They're surprisingly stable vessels, and so we have people of all ages, all activity levels after our orientation. I've known of some people that come in a day before and rent a kayak with a local company just to kind of get their paddle wet, but it's no prior experience for sure needed.
Perfect. Thank you both. Okay, so that's it for the Q&A. Thank you so much. I'm going to, you're welcome to sign off as I kind of wrap up here. I want to just thank you for taking the time to chat today, giving people the extra information, getting them excited to cruise, if not this year, because you're both so full, which is great. Next year, if they have to wait, hopefully not. And then I'm going to, I don't think we've heard from Patricia yet, who was the second winner I drew. So we're going to do one more name. The name that I just drew is Nicole Labarge. So Nicole, if you are listening, please let us know in the chat. We're going to go to a break, but Nicole, oh, Patricia's here. Okay, so Patricia is here. So we're going to go ahead and close that giveaway. Nicole, you're still in the running. We've got plenty of prize packs because I didn't actually get to give them all away earlier because we were running a few minutes behind, but we're going to go to a break. And when we come back, we're going to do our final session of the day about Southeast Alaska. I want to thank you all so much for being here. And just going to go to a quick message from our sponsor.